We are recording.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this AEM Center webinar, where we're going to be focusing on techniques and strategies for creating high quality and accessible video. We're so excited that you're joining us today. We have an international audience. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us this afternoon for this webinar. Just a reminder that there are closed captions available, and you can turn those on by looking for that closed caption option within the Zoom interface. Usually it appears along the bottom of the screen. I also want to thank Anne from ACS Captions, who's providing the captions this afternoon. And thank you so much for providing that service that makes this webinar much more accessible to everyone. And then the chat is available, and this is the way that we're going to be interacting this afternoon. We've muted everyone just to prevent background noise and distractions, but you can use the chat. What's important is that when you post in the chat, make sure you choose all panelists and attendees from the pull-down menu. And that way everyone will see your message rather than the message going to an individual person. And then of course, we want you to share what you learned this afternoon with others. We're present on social media, so we invite you to share out, tweet out what you learned this afternoon by using the hashtag AEM for all and then tagging CAST on it. That's at @cast_UDL so that we can see those posts. And a reminder, and I will come back to this reminder at the middle of this webinar, but we are recording the webinar, and a recording will be available within a week on the same page where you registered. And Leslie's gonna drop a link to that page in the chat. So make sure that, within a week, you'll also get an email reminder letting you know that the recording is available and that there are also additional resources. So our time together this afternoon is not the end of this topic. We're also gonna have office hours this week, and the office hours are an opportunity for you to have specific questions answered and also to get some guided practice. So if there's a tool or a resource that you want to learn about in more detail, that's what the office hours are for. So it's difficult with this many people on a webinar to get to all the questions, but rest assured that we will answer them. We may not do it live this afternoon, but they will be answered in the handout that will accompany this webinar once the recording is posted. All right, so I have the great pleasure of being joined by a number of CAST staff this afternoon, and one of them is going to be co-presenting with me. So I want to introduce you to Patty Ganley. She's an instructional designer and media producer at CAST. So Patty, say hello and introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's really exciting to be working with Luis on this. I've been at CAST for over 15 years. I used to be a classroom teacher and a psychiatric social worker, and I've always been interested in visual literacy, and I think the use of video has become more and more ubiquitous in teaching, and I think it brings a lot of additional pluses for our learners. So for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been producing videos for CAST in our R&D tools and for the professional learning team. And I'm so happy that others are jumping on board with this.
And this is actually Patty's first webinar, so trial by fire, right?
Yeah.
And
I've got a great support team.
That's right. It's a team effort. And I'm Luis Perez. I'm a technical assistant specialist for the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials. I've been at CAST for 2 years, but I've been in the ed tech space for quite some time, almost 20 years now. And I'm a big believer in the power of video as a way that we can, express who we are, but also share learning in different ways in accordance to the Universal Design for Learning principles. And I've been creating video for a long time. My specialty has been screencast. And so we have a number of those available on the AEM Center website. So our objectives for this afternoon is to really help you with some simple steps that you can take to up the quality of your videos in a way that supports engagement and understanding. And then we're going to talk about some initial steps that you can take to create caption videos on YouTube. And actually, We thought this through a little bit, and instead of doing that in the webinar itself, we're going to share 2 videos with you as supporting resources to this webinar, where we'll go step by step through how to create caption videos, either by editing the automatic captions or by uploading a script. But we'll mention that here in this webinar before we explore in more detail throughout the next week. And then just to let you know about AEM Center and CAST resources so that you can continue your learning after this webinar. And again, the office hours are a great opportunity for you to come and see us and get more one-on-one support, more guided practice from us. So this webinar is just part of a whole strategy that we have in place to support you in creating more accessible video. So the first resource I want to mention is we have a section on the AEM Center website that focuses on teaching with accessible video. And there are lots of resources. It's actually 3 pages that look at the what, the why, and the how of accessible video. And just recently, we created a page that's titled Top 10 Tips for Creating Quality Videos. And so that's where we're going to draw a lot of the content for our presentation this afternoon. And just this morning, we uploaded a video that will illustrate a lot of these techniques and practices in a little bit more fun way. So check out that page. You can access the information in a variety of formats. It's on the web page. There's a printable PDF that you can print and use in that way. And then, of course, there's the video. So being that we work at CAST, we definitely believe in providing information in multiple representations. And then, Patty, do you want to say a little bit about UDL on campus?
Sure. We developed UDL on campus primarily for higher ed folks, but we try to cover a lot of the information that you'd need to know to develop courses so that they are accessible. And in one area where we have special information about media, we have a video page, we have an image page where you can see examples of how it's, you know, best practices for how video and images or audio might be used. And also there's always a sidebar on how to use this media and make it accessible.
Great. Yes. So again, UDL on campus, the design specifically for a higher ed audience, but a lot of this information applies across the lifespan. And this website looks a lot at the instructional aspects of these different types of media. So I encourage you to check that out. All right, so just 2 reminders before we get going here. With Universal Design for Learning, and this is a framework for creating inclusive curricula and inclusive learning environments that was pioneered at CAST. We always think about the goal first. We always start with the goal. And so there are different types of videos, especially in the current environment that we're in with the COVID-19 crisis. So there are videos such as daily check-ins with your students. And these can be less formal and have lower production value, because what's important there is that you're connecting with your students and you're continuing that relationship from the classroom, but in a new environment. And so again, if you wear clothing that, you know, shows your personality, that's fine, because the goal with that video, it's a little bit different. Then there are videos that you might use several times for instruction. So that may be a video to support a lesson, and where you want to really focus on the topic and the content and minimize the distractions. And so that would be a more formal video with higher production values. So I think it's important to remember that there are different types of videos with different purposes and goals in mind. And then the second reminder is that while we're going to be talking about primarily instructional videos, a lot of these tips will also apply to video conferencing. Which a lot of us are doing because we're working from home or we're supporting learning from home as part of a remote learning initiative. And Carissa just asked the question, what does CAST stand for? That's a good question. So it used to stand for the Center for Applied Specialized Technology, or Special Technology. But like Xerox, we just go by CAST now, because the special technology part it kind of implies that this is just for learners with disabilities or special education. And really, CAST is for every learner. It's for everyone. So Patty, would you add anything to that?
Well, we started in '84 when all technology was sort of special. And it really is ubiquitous now. So it's an old acronym, but CAST is who we are.
So as long as you remember CAST and Universal Design for Learning, CAST and UDL, you should be able to find us. That's what we are all about, is busting barriers to learning for everyone. All right. And the last reminder here, and this is really personal to me, is video creation is for everyone. So the two individuals on the screen, on the left, we have Christopher Hills. He's from Australia, and he's has cerebral palsy. And he's a Final Cut editor. So he creates videos using Apple's Final Cut tools. And a number of his videos have gone viral. And the person on the right is my friend Sadie Paulson, who lives in North Dakota. And she actually created the video. If you go to the Apple accessibility page, the main video on that page was actually edited by Sadie. So I'm really proud of these two individuals, because they really show that video can be powerful as a way to tell your story and create a community of people around the world that support you in your mission. And I myself, I'm a person with disability. I am legally blind, and with the help of the accessibility features that are built into the devices that I use, I'm able to create a variety of different videos. So video is democratized now. Video is not for a special group of creators. It's for everybody.
Right. And I think it also gives an opportunity to students who might find other means, like writing or speaking, another means of demonstrating their knowledge about something. It broadens their ability to explain deep concepts or complex ideas.
Great point. Absolutely. That's one of the Universal Design for Learning principles of multiple means of action and expression. Yeah. So if you struggle with writing, we can use video as a different way that you can show your understanding. Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the matter now. We've split this up into 10 tips, and we split them up into 5 tips that I'm going to cover. And then we're going to take a short break so that you can ask questions. And then I will go ahead and turn it over to Patty, and she's going to do the second set of 5 tips. So does that sound like a good plan? I think so. Let's go ahead and get into these tips. So the first tip is really be clear about what the goal and purpose of the video is. And one way to do that is within 15 to 20 seconds of that video starting, it should be clear what this is about. So it's important to provide a quick overview. What is the topic that you're going to cover? In our video that we use for this webinar that's going to support it on our website, right off the bat, I tell you, this is an overview of tips for making your video more accessible. And then I share with you that there's 10 tips. So right away, you know what to expect. And then one way to make it a little bit more fun and engaging is you can make that into a question or a teaser. So you can start with something like, I want to learn how to increase my YouTube followers, which your teenagers definitely want to do, by making my video accessible. And then you could say something like, stay tuned to find out how you do that. So something like that, that's kind of a teaser. Gets people excited about the video that they're about to watch. And then it's not over once we create the video. We need to share it in some way for it to have an impact. And wherever we share it, we want to make sure that we provide a clear title and a description. When we share it on sites like YouTube or Vimeo, we want to make sure that it's clear right away what the video is about in the title and the description. And that's going to help people find it as well, because search engines use that information, the title and the description, to locate the video for people that are looking for information on a given topic. So just being descriptive about the video when you share it, but also when you create the video, right at the beginning, being upfront about what it's about is really important. And a bonus tip, actually I skipped one here, quick clicker here. So tip number 2 is start with the script. And one of the things that starting with a script, it does is, in my case, it helps me think through the video and what I'm about to say, so that when I do record the video, I find that I have to do fewer takes. And it also results in a smoother delivery. So I get to avoid a lot of the ums and ahs, or those cases where I don't know what I'm going to say next. So I just kind of ramble on. So instead of kind of going on a tangent, I can keep that video nice and tight in terms of the timing and so on by using that script. And what's really cool is that once you have that script, you can actually upload your video to YouTube and upload the script, and YouTube takes care of merging the two so that you end up with a captioned video. YouTube does the timing of taking the text in that transcript and making it into a caption file that is all synchronized. And also providing a transcript itself is a great accessibility practice. So providing a link to both the video with the captions and the transcript is really important because we may have individuals who are blind and deaf. And so that might be the only way that they can access the content, is by having it in text form. So the transcript is really important for that reason. And a bonus tip, I said we were not going to address too many tools, but these are a couple that I've used that really help me, is using a teleprompter. So if you have a script, you can load it into one of these two tools. Prompt Smart is available for iPhone and iPad. So that's what we mean by iOS. It's an Apple device like an iPhone or an iPad. And it uses speech recognition to scroll the text as you read it. So it's listening to your voice and then automatically moving the text so that you're on time. And teleprompt.me, that's a free online teleprompter that runs in the Chrome web browser. So again, you copy and paste the text, and then it will scroll it for you so that you can read it as you record it. And so you can have your iPhone or a laptop off to the side as you read the script and record yourself, and it's just gonna look really, really professional. Tip number 3 is to be concise. And there's been some research from MIT that around 6 minutes is the optimal length for a video. I included a link to that research in the slides under the speaker notes if you want to learn more about that research. So if, people tend to tune out after about 6 minutes of a video, what can you do? So there's a couple of strategies. You can create several shorter videos and then share them as part of a playlist. Or you can take the longer video and you can split it into segments. And that's what I typically do with my videos, where I use titles and music breaks to kind of give the person who's watching the video a chance to take a break, a mental break, if you will. And also what we know is that we remember things better at the beginning and at the end. So at the beginning, at the end of a presentation, of a video, we remember that information better. And so one of the things we can do is just create more beginnings and more endings. And so sharing videos that are shorter as part of a playlist, or splitting a longer video into short segments can do that. It can create more beginnings and ends. I'm having trouble with the clicker today. Tip number 4 is to make it interactive, to pause in the middle of a video and include a prompt that really forces the person who's watching the video to put that information into context for themselves and make it their own. Or at the end of a video, have a call to action. So what website do you want people to go visit? What do you want them to do when they finish watching the video? That's really important to make it actionable. So let's put this into practice right now. Are there any other tips that you found that make YouTube videos more engaging for yourself? I'll wait a second here and see what you posted in the chat. So if you think about your favorite YouTube channel or personality that you follow, what are some of the things that they do? So Tanya says lots of scene changes. Absolutely. So making sure that you're not just watching a talking head for 30 minutes, but you're balancing it with B-roll. So B-roll is where you capture some of the environment so that you can cut away to it. Humor, content, balance the content and humor. Carrie, thanks for sharing. I think it was Carrie. It's scrolling really fast for me. Someone said music, so absolutely music definitely is something that captures the emotions. Good audio, so don't forget that video and audio are, they go together like peanut butter and jelly. You can't have one without the other and get a good sandwich, or at least for me. Great, so keep those coming. We love to learn from you as well, as you share those tips and resources. So the last one that I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share with an example before I turn it over to Patty. But it's just to be descriptive as you record the video. So I see some people in the chat are mentioning audio description. So with audio description, there's a secondary track where there's a description of what's happening in the video. And that's primarily for individuals who are blind, but other people can benefit from it as well, because you may be watching on a phone, which doesn't have a huge screen. You may be watching, or you may not be watching actually, you may be doing something else. You may be multitasking. And so having that audio description can be helpful for understanding in that situation. So let me just play this video. It's a quick example of being descriptive in your language. So instead of saying over here or here, any generic language that really is not descriptive, let's just watch a quick example here, and hopefully the audio will come through.
For example, instead of saying, this is what we're going to look at today, you might say something like, today we're going to look at the brain, and I'm holding a foam model of the brain that we're going to draw on to illustrate the different parts of the brain.
Great, so hopefully that came through with the audio. Just give me a thumbs up, because we have some other audio. All right, excellent. So again, we are describing as much as possible, in terms of what we are interacting with as we record the video and so on. So the more you can be descriptive ahead of time as you set up the video, as you record it, the better experience it will be for everybody, not just those who need that accessibility support, but those who may just be multitasking or accessing it on a platform where they may not be able to see the video as well. All right, so I'm going to pause there.
For example, instead
and see if there are any questions for us before I turn it over to Patty, who is going to do the next 5 tips. So go ahead and post your questions. A reminder, this is being recorded. So you will get a recording about a week from now with closed captions added to it professionally, and additional resources. So we'll have a handout with links to all of the tools that we mentioned today. So just be aware of that. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is the office hours. And those will be tomorrow and Thursday. And the times and the dates and times are on our website. On the same page where you register, you'll get information about that. So let's see if there are any questions before I turn it over to Patty. And I'm having a difficult time with the chat. So if either Janet or Mia, if you saw any questions that I missed, just let me know. All right, it looks like we are good. Let's see. I see one come through. Should the initial transcript not be integrated? Yes, so Lynn made a good point here. Try to be as descriptive as possible when you actually record the video. For optimal accessibility, you should still have audio descriptions, but those are fairly difficult to create at this time. They're not as easy as closed captions. So the more that you can be when you actually record the video, if it's a science demonstration that you're doing, try to describe it like you're doing it over the phone, essentially. That's what I tell people. If you can do it that way, then you're going to be more descriptive when you record the video. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Patty. So take it away.
All right, you keep driving.
I will drive, which
For
is
example,
really funny. The idea of me driving with my visual impairment is a funny one.
It's pretty funny, huh?
All right, let's go ahead. Just let me know when you want me to advance.
Yeah, I think people have seen these 5. I think we should just get started. Tip number 6, minimize distractions. That means if you have a really cluttered background, you may not want to unless that's part of your shtick. I know people who that's part of their shtick and they're pulling out props and but unless you want your audience to be looking at someone else, something else, and not you, keeping it simple is a good idea. You should also wear, I think next slide is about the patterns. There, it's called the moire effect. If you wear zigzags or checks, loud colors can create this movement. So it looks like you've got under the sea going on in your shirt. So it's recommended to wear solid colors and perhaps maybe not wear logos of teams that might offend people or become old news, especially if you're going to be reusing this instructional video. But again, if it's part of your shtick, go right ahead. It's not a distraction. It's part of the support that you're giving.
Right, and then it all comes down to the goal of the video, right? So if it's
Exactly.
a check-in video where you want your personality and your connection to students to come through, then go for it. As Patty said, the shtick.
Be intentional, I guess. So audio can be distracting. Using just the mic on your laptop can have a lot of ambient sound come through. So it's better to use the built-in mic. It's I'm using the free headset that I got with my smartphone. It seems to work well. Or if you get really crazy or you have an IT department that has great equipment, using a lapel mic is a good idea. Do you want to show the examples of the differences between those, Luis?
Absolutely. So the first one here is just your built-in microphone. So this is without an external microphone plugged in.
This is the audio quality from the built-in microphone on my smartphone. Again,
so you can hear there's a little bit of an echo because it's picking up some of that ambient noise. The next one, I believe, is the smartphone headphones.
Yeah, I think it is.
and here's the audio captured by the headset that shipped with my smartphone.
So just that, the headset that ships with like the iPhone and a number of other phones has a mic built in. And then the last one is an inexpensive lapel microphone.
Right now, you're listening to this audio coming from an inexpensive lavalier microphone that's plugged into my device.
And that last little artifact that you heard, that's because I was tapping the microphone just to show it to you on screen when I recorded it. So there's not a lot of difference between number 2, which was the microphone that shipped with the phone, and the lavalier, but there is a $40 price difference, just so you know.
Yeah.
This is the audio quality. Right now, you're listening to this.
Whoa. The other thing I want to say about noise is before you start recording, oftentimes if you've got an air conditioner, like Luis, you might even have an air conditioner on today. We in New England don't, but the fans that are going on, the traffic, consider all those external noises that could be distracting.
I do, Patty. I do have the air conditioning on, and a lot of times when I'm recording, I'll go and turn it off for the brief period that I'm recording, and then I turn it back on. Yeah.
So that kind of noise can be a distraction. Okay, thinking about lighting. Luis made great examples. Examples are such a great instructional tool. When he has a window behind him, you can't see his face. When you have light coming from the side or from the direction of your camera, we can see his face. And this is helpful if some of your viewers are lip readers. It's a more pleasant experience. I think a lot of what carries a good video is the energy and passion of the person who's talking, and having that good lighting can really help you carry your message. Okay, record in landscape or portrait. This is a real simple one. It's easier, you're used to using portrait, but when you record a video in landscape, it fills up the whole screen. You have a great example in the next slide, I think, Luis. Who is that cute dog?
I had to get my dog in my presentation.
But do you see the black on either side of that? I think Luis was using portrait or what's called vertical, when you're holding it vertically. So you don't get the full picture. If he was holding it horizontally, he could have gotten a bigger, fuller picture for his video or his image. I've been told not to use selfie mode, and I have to confess, from videographers that I've worked with, and I honestly don't know why, but they insist it's better not to use selfie mode when you're doing a video. Tip number 9, keep it steady. There's nothing more distracting than having this shaky camera. It can even cause motion sickness. So if you have one of those inexpensive little twirly tripods, that's great. I've done a lot of remote interviewing videos with folks, and they prop their camera up on a pile of books or a bookshelf, and as long as it's steady and not moving, you're in good shape. The other tip I have to say is do a test before you just launch on and do your whole video. I always recommend doing a test video so you can see if your lighting's good. You can actually hear if there's a fan going on. You can see if only half of your face is showing and you have to move the camera up more parallel with your face. So that's my tip of the day for that. Yep. Let's go on. And then finally, use a video platform that you're familiar with. We've been doing a lot of webinars the last couple of weeks with people from districts from all over. And for every district, there's a different way, a different protocol, a different sites they block. In the old days, they used to block YouTube. So the tip here is really actually check in with your IT department in your district, and they'll recommend what platform they support, will use, and that your students are used to using.
All right. So again, we have, thanks so much, Patty. That was great. And Patty has a lot of experience with creating video. So this is the time when we're going to open it up for you. We have plenty of time for this webinar to answer questions. And I saw a few excellent ones come through. So I'm going to try to address those in order. And I'm going to kind of shoot a few your way, Patty, if you don't mind, because I think
right.
you have some great answers.
I'll try.
So the first question was, someone asked about open versus closed captioning. Now I can take that one, Patty, and then I'm sure you'll have some comments to add to it. But open captions basically means that the captions are burnt into the video and you can't turn them on and off. They're part of the video itself. Whereas with closed captioning, it's a secondary track that has those captions. And so within the player, you can choose a button. Usually it has the CC icon on it, and you can turn it on and off. And because I'm a proponent of universal design for learning and giving learners choice, I'm a proponent for closed captioning. Because there may be times when you want to turn them off for whatever reason. So I believe in giving the user choice. And so closed captioning has that flexibility where you can turn them on when needed, but you can hide them when not. Whereas with a video that's open caption, you don't have that option. So that's really the difference between those two types of captioning.
Yeah.
Here's one for you, Patty. I think you'll have a good answer to this because I'm sure you've worked with this kind of setting. What if the person themselves have a disability and you're recording? And specifically, they talked about someone who is deaf or hard of hearing.
Where you're interviewing them?
It sounds like that's the case,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. What you usually need to do is get someone who can sign and have a smaller cast going on at the same time. That's what we've done when we've been working with the deaf community.
Yeah, and when you edit the video, you can have that recording of the interpreter, and you can put that in the corner.
Right.
So that's one way to handle it, so that because for a lot of people who are deaf or hard of hearing, sign language is going to be their first language, right? So
Right.
they will have easier time with the sign language interpreting than with the caption, especially with younger learners. Let's see. Next question is about Safe YouTube. And I think I know what you mean by that. This is a website that allows you to remove some of the distractions from YouTube. So you get another link where it doesn't have all those related videos. I highly recommend using something like that because as you know, when you finish playing a YouTube video, you have no control over what's next. So I'm sure that's happened to all of us who are educators here, where some questionable content is shown by the YouTube algorithm. So Safe YouTube, I haven't used it myself, but I know what it is. And that's basically what it does, is it gives you another link without those related videos and other distractions. Debbie has a great question here. What types of closed captioning are we using at the bottom of our presentation? So we're doing live captioning today, Debbie. So we have Anne from ACS Captions, and she's plugged into our Zoom room here, and she's providing captions in real time. Now, when we are done with this recording, we'll actually send it out, and then closed captions will be added to the video. And those are the ones that you can turn on and off when you view it on YouTube. So hopefully that answers your question. Jennifer has a question about platforms for recording screencast. There are a couple that I've used online, and Patty, you may have some as well. Screencast-O-Matic is one, and then Loom, L-O-O-M. And I've been using or exploring Loom because my girlfriend is actually a sign language interpreter. And so we're trying to figure out how she's going to do remote interpreting. And with Loom, you can record within the Chrome web browser, and you can have the screencast content along with picture-in-picture of your webcam.
Wow.
So
Are those free, Luis?
those are both free.
Wow.
So, you know, most of these allow you to record the screen and your webcam, or just the screen, or just the webcam. It really depends on what you want as part of your video.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's see. I'll shoot this one your way, Patty. Is there a connector with a mail jack for the Apple headset to a PC?
I don't know.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. Apple headsets. Usually there's adapters. I mean, you know, if you go into any Apple store, they love to sell you adapters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
Luis, just to, I'm sorry, this is Leslie O'Callahan here. I actually had to buy a whole bunch of adapters when I switched my iPhones, because now there's just the one port. And yes, there are adapters that you can go ahead and put into if you're talking about a standard jack or even a USB. I got mine at Amazon. They were $10 each.
Yep. So there's different places where you
Yeah.
can get adapters. They'll take whatever plug you have available on your microphone and then convert it to whatever that device allows you to plug in. Let's see. Jennifer asked a questions about editing the captions. That's something that we're going to share as separate videos because, as you can imagine, when we have 180 people, 179 people, I'm pretty sure that we won't all be at the same pace and so on. So instead, we're going to share 2 short videos on our website. One will show you how to edit the automatic captions, and then the other one will show you how to upload a transcript, and then have YouTube add the timings, but then you can go in and edit that as well. So those will be available within, by the end of the week, I would say, on our website.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see, Leslie has a question, not our Leslie, but issues with external mics and specific platforms. And she's specifically talking about iPad. So Leslie, one of the things to know about the iPad is sometimes it doesn't put out enough power for a microphone, or the microphone may not be recognized by the iPad. So I have a number of microphones that I use on the desktop, but then when I try to plug them into the iPad, even if I have the correct plug, the iPad may say it's not recognized. And that's usually what the problem is that the iPad doesn't provide enough power for the microphone to work. So I've just learned from trial and error of plugging in a number of microphones, which ones work on the iPad. But generally on the computer, you'll have better luck because power then is not an issue there. Let's see. Somebody asked about Zoom and WebEx and integrating captioning. So I'm most familiar with Zoom. That's the one that we're using today. A number of these platforms now integrate captioning. So if you're not sure, I would just go to the website for that platform and then do a search for closed captioning. And you should be able to find information about what they provide in terms of captioning support. Let's see. I see a few, I'm looking for a few questions here. Rebecca says Google Meet has automated captions. Absolutely. So we should also mention that in PowerPoint and in Google Slides, you can actually turn on live captioning. Now, I'm going to be controversial here, and I will say that I'm not a huge fan of those. I think they're really helpful when you know, you have a meeting like with a few people and you don't have the ability to get an interpreter or you know, real-time captions ahead of time. But what I think we shouldn't use them as is if you're a big company and you're having a live event, that should not be the source of your captions. Like, you should budget ahead of time. You should think about accessibility from the start, and you should hire somebody who provides live captions so that those captions are much better. Obviously, the speech recognition is getting better. The artificial intelligence is getting better. And so those captions are getting better. But when we do real-time captions, you know, if it's 95% accurate, what if that 5% has the most important content? And so you're missing out on that content. So I'm a big believer on providing the best experience possible for people with disabilities and others who need these supports. Patty, what are your thoughts on that? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Well, I agree. The automatic captioning has, over the last couple of years, improved immensely. And this might be controversial coming from a CAS person. They're probably better than nothing. But it really behooves us to go in and for example, YouTube does fairly good captioning, but they also have an easy system for you to go in and edit it to make it right. And so I feel like if you're really going to get serious about videos, you need to find a way to do it right. Right.
I couldn't have said it better. Now, Maria, you have a great point here. What about if the person speaks another language? So there is a tool called Microsoft Translator. And that's a great tool because you can actually, people can get the captions in their own language on their device. So they get to pick the language on their device. And so especially nowadays, you may have, let's say if you're in New York City or any major city where there are students with, you know, 15, 20 languages, then in that situation, it's not practical to hire translators or interpreters for everyone that's in that meeting. but you can provide them with some instructions for how to access the live caption in their language, and they can do that on the device. So again, that was Microsoft Translator. Let's see, look at the web address. So there are some people are sharing information about Safe YouTube. So absolutely, please, by all means, I love that. You know, Patty and I have done a number of videos over the years, but you know, we don't know everything. So you have expertise to bring to this conversation as well. So we welcome that. And Patty Moore says, can I download my YouTube video to include closed captioning on my computer? Yes, and there are tools to do that. In fact, we have a tutorial on our website. There's a free tool called Cadet, C-A-D-E-T. It stands for Captioning and Description Editing Tool. I hope I got that right. I'm on the spot here.
Is there an E in there?
Yeah,
editing, yeah.
Yeah, I got it. So Cadet is a free tool from the National Center on Accessible Media, and it allows you to import a video file, and then you can create captions in a number of different formats, depending on where you're going to use the captions, where you're going to upload it. So, so that's an option too. It's a little bit more advanced. I would say if I had to sort of grade them, I would say the easiest would be to edit the YouTube captions. The next easiest or hardest is to create a script and then upload that and, you know, adjust the timings if you need to. And then the last would be if you download it and then you use a standalone tool like Cadet. And Cadet runs on, you know, all platforms. So Windows, Mac, it's cross-platform. Here's a great tip from Gary coming in, Otter IA. So it allows you to use speech recognition to get a transcript. So not perfect, as he says, but very good. So, you know, these tools that use artificial intelligence, they're a great start, right? So they do a lot of the work for you and they can cut down the time considerably. So that's often what I do is I let the AI do a first pass and then I will edit either on YouTube or I'll download them and edit them with Cadet. Yes, Carolyn, Cadet is free. So again, just like the AEM Center, it's part of, you know, federally funded resources. And so there's the link coming your way from wgbh.org. So you can explore Cadet in more detail and download it and try it out. So these are all excellent questions that you have here. And we still have a few minutes. We may actually even end a little early. But I do have a few slides after this question Q&A period and a few reminders. So a lot of these tips, Patty, apply to video conferencing, don't they, right?
Yes, and boy, we're spending a lot more time on video conferencing these days, but you know, using a good mic, having sound be clear, having clear videos. I think the other thing that is a little different with video conferencing is identifying yourself.
Yes.
When you've got a bunch of people who are on various machines with or without video, it really helps to identify yourself before you speak.
Yep, we can't guarantee that everyone is looking at the screen.
Right.
They may be in a different environment where they're just listening, or they may be calling in. So for their benefit, it's important that we always identify ourselves. Now on this webinar, it's just myself and Patty, so you probably already know our voices. But if we had 20 or 30 students, then their voices start to sound very much alike. So it's important to have that identification. It's a good habit to get into overall. All right, so let me switch back to the slides there. Again, we'll look through the chat one more time after the webinar, and then if we don't get to your questions, we'll go ahead and include them as part of the handout that will accompany the recording for this video. So that handout is going to have links to the tools that we mentioned, including some that you've brought up, so thank you for that. I always love it when you add to my toolkit. As long as you don't cost me money, I'm okay. And so we'll add to hand out those tools and additional resources. So be on the lookout for that on our website. So just a few reminders to wrap things up here. We do want to give you with a task. So the task, again, in following the Universal Design for Learning principles, we can give you a choice, or we want to give you a choice. So you have two options here. We want you to explore the video page on UDL on Campus. So that's one of the websites that we shared at the beginning of this presentation as a resource. And we want you to explore those suggestions that we have for using video. And think about your own content and your own teaching. Which ones of those make sense for the different types of content that you typically share with students or with parents or, you know, with other teachers. So we want you to think about that. And then the other option is to take a look at a video that you've used in your instruction and then see, you know, which ones of these tips that we've shared today you've incorporated and which other tips that we shared you might incorporate in the future or as you redo that video. So we just want to give you a call to action here at the end to make this a little bit more actionable. And then we welcome testimonials. So if you find what we've shown you today helpful and you record a short video, we invite you to share it on social media and just tag us and use the hashtag AEM for all. We love to see the impact of accessibility in the real world out there. And then of course the office hours. So once you take a look at these two tasks, or if you have other questions for us, we will be available for you during our office hours to make sure that we answer those questions and also can sit down with you and go through the captioning process that we do ourselves and just provide you with lots of additional support. So those office hours for this week are tomorrow morning from 10 to 11:30 a.m. And then Thursday, April 9th, that's Thursday of this week from 4 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, you can always contact us at any time at aem@cas.org. So if you have a quick question that we didn't get to, that's another way that we can support you. And then a reminder, this is part of a series. Last week's webinar focused on personalizing the reading experience. So we looked at supports for, you know, customizing the display of content on a number of devices, and we looked at text-to-speech. And that video is currently available on our website, and there's also a handout for it, and we're working on posting some shorter videos to support that. So that was last week, and then next week our webinar is going to focus on accessible documents and slide decks. And that will be on Monday, April 13th, from same bat time, same bat channel, 3 p.m. Eastern. And of course, we invite you to stay connected with us, whether it's on Twitter, where we're at cast_UDL, that's in all caps, or on Facebook, where we're at castudl. So there's no underscore on that one. And it's, again, all caps. And again, you can always email us at aem@cast.org. And the email will get routed to the right person. We really appreciate your feedback. Trust us. We listen to your feedback, and it helps us make this technical assistance that we're offering much more relevant and targeted to your needs. So we invite you to just complete a brief survey for us. Leslie just dropped the link in the chat. A reminder again, this is being recorded. You will get a link to the recording. You'll get the slides. You'll get a handout. You may get some additional videos soon related to the captioning process. So again, this webinar is just one component of this technical assistance that the National AEM Center, which is federally funded, is offering to you to support you during not only in response to this COVID-19 crisis, but going forward so that we're creating more accessible and inclusive learning systems. So with that, I just want to say a few thank yous, a few shout outs. Leslie, who's always does such a great job of including the links in the chat and monitoring the questions for us. We have Mia and Janet was here for a period of time, but they've both been monitoring the chat as well and allowing us to keep an eye on that. So thank you, Mia. Thank you, Janet. And then, of course, I want to thank Anne, who's our captioner, for providing the closed captions. So if you saw really great closed captioning coming through, Anne is the person behind that. So thank you so much, Anne. And then, of course, I want to thank Patty for being such a great co-presenter. This is your first webinar. I think there's a few more in your future, Patty.
Well, only if you can co-present with me, Luis. You're the star.
You're too kind. So the last question here, is there a certificate for watching this webinar? We haven't created one, but...
Actually, we have, Luis.
Oh, you have?
Hi, yeah, I've gotten a few questions. This is probably easier than just putting it in the chat. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. So if anybody would like a certificate, if you could just email me at leslie@cas.org. That way I'll remember and I'll send it out to you. And also, while I'm here, the Zoom, sometimes as everyone knows, so many people are using Zoom during these times that things are slowed down a little bit. Normally, shortly after the webinar, you would all get a follow-up email with the office hours and the join link. You will get that, but unfortunately, it might come after tomorrow's office hours. So I'm going to put this in the chat right now and give everybody a chance to copy and paste this if they would like to join tomorrow's office hours at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And the link is right there. So just trying to get ahead of this because Zoom, understandably, is a little bit slower than usual with sending out the automated emails.
Oh, are you saying they have a higher than expected load right now?
Yeah, I wonder what's going on.
So yeah, for sure. So definitely look out for that. And again, thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us. We really appreciate your time. And again, we're all in this together, and together we'll get through it. So we appreciate your time, and whatever we can do to help you, we're willing to go that extra mile. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
All right. Bye.